Could the formation of BRICS be one of the greatest threats to our economy over the next 20 years?
Yes. So BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and
South Africa.
Yeah, and South Africa, all together. And so think of it, going back to the basketball analogy, maybe Russia cannot beat the United States, because I've seen in the comments people are saying, well, America has the number one military in the world. That's true. But the war that we're fighting right now, and the Russia and Ukraine war, at some point that we have to put a stopping point to it, because if energy prices have increased so much, in some cases 10x in Europe, that if you're having to get your reserves or natural gas from Russia, they can use the commodity that they run and have a seller market on to freeze out or cause rationing in other countries. And if those are our allies, we're going to have to come to their aid. There are other ways that this war is going to be fought. And with the introduction of this super team, which they've been working on this for over a decade now, if these 4 countries come together, it's projected by 2050 that they will be a superpower. So sometimes you may not be able to beat a competitor head on, but if Brazil, Russia, India, which is a super booming emerging economy, and China, which we've talked about, come together, and I have a small theory that if right now China cannot beat the United States head up, if they cause a crash internationally, and then that superpower applies a lot more pressure at that time and buys up a lot of assets. If we have 2 successive crashes back to back by 2040, they'll definitely be in lead by 2050. So yes, we have a large military, but they're not playing the same kind of war game that we are playing. So keep your eye on BRICS, do your research on them. And a lot of times when people cannot beat you, and this is why companies like Apple and Microsoft, they will acquire aggressively. Sometimes it's too tough to build all the pieces that you need. So like if next season, let's say hypothetically, let's say LeBron went to the Golden State Warriors. It was like, whew, NBA will be in shambles, right? They are trying to form a super team, not only economically, but geopolitically, to be able to be the number one superpower in the world. And if they successfully pull that off, it would definitely do a major damage to our economy.
Yeah, and here's some statistics. So 4 out of those 5 members among the world's 10 largest countries by population, by area, and GDP. About 23% of the gross world product combined. 23% of the world's gross product, just from those 5 countries.
Well, the thing about it is actually, I don't know whose idea was it for team up, but it makes complete sense, because the only way if you can't beat somebody in a fight, you have to jump them. You learn that in the basics.
Yeah.
So when you look at a combination like that, when you look at Brazil, what's the strongest economy in South America? You look at India, which is the most populated
China
country in the world. China is the second most populated country in the world, vice versa.
Sure.
But they're the top 2 most populated countries in the world. China is the second largest economy in the world. You look at Russia, which obviously, is the biggest probably military threat to the world outside of America. And then you have South Africa, which is the largest economy in Africa. So pretty much you're picking the top player from each continent, skipping Europe and skipping North America.
Yes.
That's the obvious play, what they're doing. North America, obviously, that's America. Europe is in bed with America. So they're saying, okay, we're never going to be accepted by y'all. We're always going to be like, stepchildren in this equation. So we'll just work around you. And now we'll take, South America, Asia, and the most European country in Africa, which is South America, which the 80% of the wealth in South America is still owned by people of European descent.
South Africa or
South Africa?
South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Afrikaners, they're South African, but they're white, and they still are in control of the majority of the wealth in South Africa. So they have black presidents. They've had black presidents since Nelson Mandela, but they still haven't figured out how to actually transfer any economic power to Black people.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So that would be a natural fit, right? Because it's like you don't have to go through, a country like Nigeria where it's a Black dominated country and stuff like, all right, let's just go. We already got a connection with South Africa from a variety of different things that have happened in the past. That's easy to work with them. So yeah, I think that's something to definitely keep in mind and to look out for, because the next world superpower might not be one country. As we know, we look at superpowers as one country, but the next world superpower might be 5 countries coming together.
That's one unit.
Yeah.
And it's super strategic, right? There was no S on BRICS in 2009. Right. So think about that.
Add another piece. Yeah.
Right. So they're looking at the globe saying, who can we add? And okay, here's a continent we haven't touched. All right. What's the number one economy there? All right, let's go grab them. So super strategic, and definitely a threat.
And then as we're in this conflict with Ukraine, of course, we're gonna support Ukraine because they're an ally. But now Russia has been saying, hey, well, maybe we'll just accept the yuan instead of the petrodollar for oil, which I told you guys maybe 8 months ago. That's a very important economic linchpin, because now if you remove the petrodollar as the main mechanism of buying that asset, and now you create your own currency. And I go back to my theory about how much Russia owns of Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'll go back to that and lightly tap on that door with Vitalik being Russian. If you set up cryptocurrencies and eventually these become, you have your own geopolitical or country-based currencies, when we go through these crashes, you're going to want safety when transferring dollars safely and securely. And no country, even with Bitcoin, and I saw an article that like even countries in South America that were using Bitcoin and big fans of it, since the prices went down, they are not as big as advocates of it. You can't promote a currency brand or any entity if you don't completely own majority share of it. So if BRICS come into play, what is to stop them from making their own cryptocurrency and allowing that money to circulate? And if they remove the petrodollar as a main mechanism for buying oil from them, then where does that place us? Going back to one thing, and I hate to say he was right, but Trump was right. We need complete energy dependence from any other country. It is a huge mistake to rely on food, water, and that water crisis is only going to get worse. Food, water, and oil, selling market items. If we don't have complete dependence from other countries, we're going to be in trouble. And here's a complete illustration of that. When I was in Houston for the flood a few years ago, city shut down. We saw the entire country shut down over COVID. It was horrible, but it wasn't like an extinction level event or like something so catastrophic where we didn't have enough systems in place in most cities to get masks ready available. What are we going to do? So the invasion won't be troops on our ground. It may be a super power or super PAC like this that could lead to the destruction. But Ray Dalio's book is probably one of the best books ever written about the economic climate and cycle that we're in. Please read it. Pages 300 through 400 is your homework assignment for next week. Please get it done.
My graduates from my school being Forbes, bag drop.
Bag drop.
A mic drop, bag drop.
Bag drop.